Okay, it's Sunday, which means against my better judgment, it's time to go to Reddit and see what we can find in this hive of scum and villainy, with special guest the cat, for probably about 5 entire seconds, so enjoy it while you can. So first off, my friend says I shouldn't play DPS because I'm a girl. Your friend's a dumbass. Soldier versus Pharmacy. If I'm a soldier with gold level mechanics, should I aim the Mercy first or the Pharah? How do Helix rockets fit in here? Well, if you can shoot at the Mercy, you want to shoot at the Mercy first. But if the Mercy's paying attention, then the Mercy won't just be floating out in space where you can freely shoot at her as well. So you might just kind of end up having to fire at the Pharah. Similarly, if the... well, not similarly, actually. If the Pharah is firing directly at you, you might need to just fire at the Pharah first, basically to try and get her to fucking stop trying to kill you as well, because it doesn't matter if the Pharah is getting pocketed. If she suddenly starts taking damage, then she's going to think twice before just going straight for you. So you shoot for the Mercy first if you can, but depending on what the Mercy's up to, you might not be able to. How do Helix rockets fit in here? They basically don't. It's very hard to hit a very far away flying target with the rockets. So, pretty much, if you are really close to the Pharah and or Mercy, or, I don't know, the Pharah stops to use Barrage or something, then... but basically, it's very hard to hit them with Helix rockets, so they kinda don't. Careful when nanoing your Zarya. Let's see, that said, while I love being nanoed as Zarya, even at high charge, it is sometimes more wise to put the nano onto someone else. Zarya does high amounts of damage, and her bubbles amplify this and her role as a space enforcer. However, if the enemy Rhine has their shield up or there's an Orisa barrier or something of the sort, I will struggle. Sure, I can go past the shield, but when the enemy sees the nuclear reactor has suddenly received the blessing of the old god. I enjoy that description a lot. They typically want to kill her, unless my team will back me up. This is ranked. We know this happens less than we wish it to be. I will typically be killed. Furthermore, if I don't decide to go up, I'll be shield breaking. Being stuck shield breaking as Zarya is not a good use of nano. That is A, not fun, and B, a waste of my energy and an ult. All very true stories. Though my personal grievance with nanoing the Zarya has always been, there's no guarantee the Zarya is decent, so maybe think twice before you do it anyway, just on a more baseline level. Playing in Plat is extremely unpredictable. I learn a lot from Twitch GM games, Jane and here on this sub. I always try to think and prepare for what the smart play would be from the enemy team, you know, game sense and stuff. I haven't been playing ranked for a long time now, so I decided to come back recently, and it's been weird. Plats never do what I expect them to do. Well, I mean, here's the thing, is that, like, if you're basing what you're gonna be doing off of, like, Masters and Grandmasters players, you're gonna have a bad time because all ranks play slightly differently, or very differently, depending. Like, if you're more than 2 brackets higher or lower, it'll be a very different experience. Plat's always been the worst SR bracket to me anyway. Like, mid to high Plat is very, very terrible. Because that's where you'll get the people who have the massive egos, but don't actually have the skill to back up that ego yet. So that's where I find you're most likely to encounter the 5 DPS teams, you know, is because no one wants to change, because they're going to hard carry themselves to Diamond, god damn it. But Lord knows that if they could actually do that, they'd be in Diamond, so, you know. All the ranks play differently, so, like, you gotta acclimatize to the rank that you're in, basically. Because a Platinum player is going to play differently to a Grandmasters player. I have played in every season so far, and here's my progress, or lack of it. I've never been a big fan of this table thing. It's not a massive change in either direction, is it? I mean, so we can see that, like, I was like, gee, I forgot that Season 1 did the different ranking, because I was like, Jesus Christ, what a jump in one season. No, we did the weird 1 to 100 thing in Season 1, didn't we? God, that was weird. Can you believe that? Yeah. life is hard sometimes. People improve at different rates, and some people improve very gradually, you know. 100 tips from a Grandmaster video. We're not going to watch it, but we'll look at what the video's called, so you can watch it if you want to. Oh, look, it's 101 tips from a Grandmaster, Nick Darrick. There you go, if you're interested. How can I help deal with self-tilt when it comes to SR? Going to stay where I feel like climbing is an impossible Sisyphean task. Oh, Sisyphean task. Oh my goodness, someone broke out the dictionary for this post, didn't they? And that I'm doomed to be stuck in this elo range, and I start to blame losses on lack of team coordination and end up feeling powerless, creating this cycle of tilting and leading to more losses. While it's true that bronze is uncoordinated, that shouldn't make climbing impossible. I'm here to ask if you have any tips on combating this feeling of powerlessness and help me get back on my feet after my humble SR earnings get crushed by a rampaging Genji or 6-stack running goats. So, you know, how you personally deal with tilt will be different from person to person. For me, it's not really an issue. Like, I very rarely actually get tilted. The times that I do get tilted, I just stop playing for like a couple of hours and then it's gone. Because if you're tilted and you keep playing, usually that's going to lead to worse results. Excuse me. So I usually just stop playing for like an hour or two. But whatever works for you works for you. You gotta find that out for yourself, you know. The thing is, though, that, like, there's no point blaming your teammates for it, because doubtlessly there are times when the game was completely unwinnable and it was nothing to do with you. That happens, right? But that's a bad outlook to have, because that's ultimately not at all productive. So you should always be like, what could I have done to improve my chances of winning this game? What could I have done better in this game to try and win? And, you know, sometimes you were never going to win, but the chances are there was something you could have done to improve your chances of winning. And that's a much more productive line of thought than just, well, my team was bad, right? Because that's it. You shut it all down at that point, haven't you? It stops and starts there. But if you at least think about what you could have done better, then that still is improving your chances to win in future games. So, like, that's just a bad outlook to have. Always blame yourself, even when it wasn't your fault. Still blame yourself. What could I have done? And, you know, you gotta find what works for you, basically. The CSGO's Overwatch system. Fucking fly. It's one of the things I really loved in CSGO Ranked. If you don't know what it is, shortly some experimental players are allowed to review reports and determine if these reports are justified or not. No. Well, so, you know, we had something like that in League of Legends, but, like, the problem was, it was called the Tribunal in League of Legends. The trouble was that, like, it was hard to get people to actually do it. Like, they gave in-game currency for, like, reviewing games in the Tribunal, or reports in the Tribunal, I should say. But, like, that wasn't enough to actually, like, encourage a lot of people to do it. And, like, I went through quite a few of them, and, like, the problem was that if you can review reports that the people have made out in the community, what you learn really quickly is that you almost never punish the person that got reported. You almost always want to punish the person that did the reporting, but that's not an option. Because, like, 80% of the times, the cases I looked at in the Tribunal, it was always like, the person that submitted the report was the one talking all the shit in the game, and the person who got reported said, like, 2 things along the lines of, like, shut up, faggot, right? And yeah, you know, that's still not cool to respond that way. But, like, the person who reported the person was always just going on and on and on for line after line after line, just talking shit the whole time. And then that person got reported over there for saying 2 things. And, like, yeah, you know, he didn't react well still, but, like, I want to punish this asshole, not that asshole, because this asshole is like 20,000 times worse. And like, the thing is as well, is that like, frankly, the Overwatch community cannot be trusted with that kind of power. Because, you know that they're just gonna ban the people they don't like, and that's gonna be it, regardless of if the person actually did something that is worth banning, right, or punishing either way. They'll just report the person they don't like. That's absolutely what the Overwatch community will do. They can't be trusted with self-regulating measures like that. The Overwatch community is not fit for it. Advice wanted on dodging as Tracer. Frankly, I'm not good enough at Tracer to really offer that much insight. I genuinely don't know how they manage all this. If I enter in the field of view of a Hanzo while being unprotected by a shield, I'll die instantly. When they do it, they somehow survive every time. I've even seen Defran blink into a crowd of 5-6 enemies, one-clip them, then blink out and actually survive. How does one learn this skill? I've tried engaging when the main tank engages, but it never seems to work. So, the way you learn this skill is by failing a lot, right? That's how you learn a lot of things, is you fail to do it a bunch of times, and eventually you learn how to do it correctly. So, with, like, that happening, it's like, if like, Defran is doing that, he's, like, seen an opportunity to do that. He knows that the enemy team is distracted or something like that, or he's confident the other person isn't going to turn and kill him, right? And obviously, like, he's gonna be mechanically good enough to actually, like, blink up and one-clip the person. Which is, frankly, more than most people will be able to do consistently already. Like, it's one of the, like, if you're just kind of blinking straight at the person while they're looking at you, then you're gonna get fucking murdered, you know? It's one of those things where it's, like, difficult to give specific advice if you haven't seen the person play, because, like, you could just be, like, coming out in full view of the person and then blinking straight up to them, expecting to be able to kill them before they can react. And then if you're doing that, the person's just gonna do, what's this Tracer doing? Just blinking straight up to me. I'm just gonna shoot her because she's moving in a really easy to hit pattern, right? Like, and I mean, if they don't know you're coming, that's always gonna be better, right? Like, if you can get behind the Hanzo and get up behind him and he doesn't know you're coming, like, you have a huge advantage. And then, you know, maybe he does a 180 and shoots you in the head with his giant tree trunk bullets, right? But, like, in which case he's earned it, you know, or he was really lucky, because, you know, that's always Hanzo. You can just spin the wheel a couple times, also. It's most likely choosing bad times to engage more than anything else, though. Like, you have to actually see the opportunity to go in and make something happen. You can't just say, I'm going to go in and make something happen. You have to say, oh, now I can go in and make something happen. Would rank mode be better place if they removed medals? No. No, it wouldn't. Because this is what you need to know, right? Is like, the medals are already there to try and reduce toxicity, because when you have a scoreboard, you can very easily point to the person at the bottom of the scoreboard and go, that person's bad. That's their fault we're losing. Even if they're doing fine. They're the one on the bottom of the scoreboard, so obviously they're trash. The thing is that, so they put the medals in. Well, alright, so we'll just give you a rough idea of how well you're doing. People go, well, I'm playing a tank, says Roadhog, and I have silver damage. Explain. This was so much worse when you could get the damage medal boosted off of hitting barriers. Roadhog's ulted a Reinhardt shield and he thinks he's a god, right? Like, I'm playing a tank, says Diva. So why do I have silver damage? And the DPS is like 100 points lower than her, right? But like, the tank has the silver medal. Oh my god. I'm playing Moira. Why do I have gold eliminations? I can't imagine how a Moira would get gold eliminations. What a mystery that one is. So, like, people will find a way to be toxic if they're gonna be toxic, right? This is the thing. People who are assholes will be assholes, regardless of what the system the game uses. So even if they take medals out, it's not gonna matter. It's just gonna be the accusations are even more baseless than they are right now, right? Because now it's just gonna get, the people are just look around and go, well, the enemy team aren't dying. Must be your fault, right? Like, that's not gonna matter. Our team died, tank's fault. Like, it's not gonna make any difference. People who are assholes. Once one team starts losing, we gotta find somebody to put this blame on. And Lord knows it's not me. It has to be somebody else. Because if it's not somebody else, then it's me. I don't like that. It's gotta be someone else. It's not gonna make any difference. Like, you have to learn to deal with assholes in competitive games, especially in the competitive mode. Should it be that way? No, of course not. It would be fantastic if we lived in a world where there were no assholes who don't go around calling people all kinds of slurs because they've got the silver damage medal. But it would also be a wonderful world if people stopped going out in the street and murdering and mugging people, wouldn't it? But that's also not going to happen. So, you know, you kind of have to learn to deal with it. You have to be able to deal with the fact people are going to be assholes on the internet, especially in a competitive multiplayer game in the ranked mode. You just have to learn to deal with that. All games are like that. And there's nothing you can really do to stop it, right? You can try and, like, cut it down as much as possible, like, but it's always gonna be that way, right? Like, you have to learn to deal with assholes. Because, like, if you're queuing into a game and there's 11 other people in that game, there's a fairly high chance at least one of them's gonna be an asshole. And then it only takes one asshole for other people to start turning into assholes, because they have this corrupting effect, right? So you gotta deal with it. You gotta learn how to deal with it. Stuck in bronze. When I first started competitive, I was in silver, but dropped to bronze, and I was in bronze ever since. I usually use Ashe, Widowmaker, Hanzo, Moira, and a few others. I think I have decent aims, and it's not that my accuracy percentage is high, it's that I can hit consistent flick shots, and I can hit some pretty insane shots. I picked up Widow again recently now, As my game sense. Any tips to climb? Well, that's very fucking vague, isn't it? Like, that's a very hard question to answer, because game sense covers literally everything that isn't just raw mechanics. So, there's a lot of things that could be a part of that. Like, if you're playing that kind of hero, you just have to be, like, pretty mechanically good at that hero, first off. Like, I don't know, it's the kind of thing that's really hard to answer without actually, like, seeing the person play, because just, I think my game sense is bad. Is so vague. How do I play Ana at lower elos? I play at mid to high gold, and I've recently been playing a lot of Ana. I've been watching a lot of guides and trying to get tips from high-level streamers. I don't even think that's a lower elo. People are always like, gold and plat are low elo, and then suddenly it turns into high elo. People have no, like, middle elo, I've noticed. Have you noticed that? When other people are talking about SR ranges, they always say lower SR and higher SR. There's never a mid-level SR, is there? They're always lower, or they're always higher. Nothing else. Like, what are bronze and silver if not the lower SRs? And what are gold and plat if not the middle SRs? I guess you could go bronze to gold is lower SR, but then gold, plat, and diamond have to be the middle SRs, don't they? And people who are in diamond do not want to describe themselves as being middle SR, do they? That's the point where you want to be able to say you're a higher SR. This doesn't really pertain to anything. I just think it's kind of funny how nobody ever describes a middle SR bracket. It's always lower or higher. Anyway, a lot of what they do relies on their team not being bots like most lower elo players are. For example, it's difficult to put good positioning tips to practice when my team plays out of my line of sight. Yep. I mean, if your team is doing stupid shit, you gotta go do stupid shit with them, unfortunately. That's how life is. It's also difficult to make plays with my anti-nade when my team won't follow up on them. This isn't meant to be, I should be GM, but my teammates are holding back posts, and I know there are plenty of mistakes I make too. I was wondering, though, if there's any way to play Anna at this elo that will help my team out more. So... Anna has, like, a lot of control over the game, especially as a support, because she has some very powerful abilities. So, here's what you'll want to do first, if you, can't rely on most of your teammates, is you find the best player on your team, right? You identify this one here. He's the best player on the team. And you try to make that player as good as they can possibly be. This is especially true if you're playing Mercy, right? Find the best player on your team and pocket that person and try to make them better than the enemy team. Because, you know, you got 5 people on your team, one of them is good still, right? Like, you are unlikely to be playing with 5 Neanderthals, right? One of the troglodytes has to be okay, at least. So, just, you know, find the best one, pocket that person. Especially if you're playing Mercy. Anna, if Anna, like, you want to find the good person in Nano Boost, don't you? You know? But, like, there are still things you can do to exert control over the game. If you're playing Anna, you can kill the enemy pharmacy, especially if you're in gold where they don't really know, like, they're not the greatest Pharah or Mercy in the world yet, right? Like, you can kill the Pharah or the Mercy. If I play Pharah, I die to Anna a lot of the time, honestly, just because, like, I don't respect her, to be honest with you. So, like, she only shoots me 3 times and I die, and I'm like, alright, yeah, Anna's actually pretty good against Pharah, isn't she? That's me being bad, admittedly, but, like, Anna can kill Pharah. So, if they're on that, if they got a Pharah or Mercy on that team, if you don't need to be healing somebody, like, right now, then try and kill that person, because you don't actually need to hit them that many times for them to die. And then you've removed a big sticking point, especially for lower SR players, right? Secondly, people are not going to follow up on your grenades properly, yes, but that doesn't mean that, like, them being hit by the anti-heal is an enjoyable experience for them, right? Like, if you're hit a bunch of people in a team fight with the anti-heal still, like, those people are still gonna have to play like bitches for a little while or get murdered, right? Even if you, and, like, their chances of dying is still skyrocketed if you hit them with that, right? So, like, you still keep doing it, and yet they won't all, like, fucking dive on that person in unison and murder them, but, like, still, you hurt that person, they have to play more passively and their chances of dying has increased, right? If you trank somebody, like, yeah, the chances of them just waking somebody up for no reason is higher, but, like, if you trank someone, that still increases their risk of dying. You can still cancel abilities, you can still, like, stop ultimates with it, you can still exert control on the match. So, like, just find, like, the best players and be like, that's the person I'm gonna make sure he stays alive and he's gonna kill the bad men. And then when I don't need to heal that man or the other men's, I'm gonna kill the bad men because I'm playing Anna and I don't actually need to hit the people that many times to kill them. Squishy person over there, out of position, click, 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 he died. Excellent, nice, good job me. And look at that, nobody even died while I was doing it. It all went swimmingly. And that's the kind of thing, right? Don't forget, Anna can kill squishy targets really quickly. And people in lower SRs are doing dumb shit. So, if your team's bad, they're bad. If your team's out of position, their team's probably out of position some points too. You just shoot the bad man if you don't need to be healing somebody at the time. Kill the bad man, and then they can't kill your team, and then that makes it easier for you to heal your team. Easy peasy. As Reinhardt, what should I do when only half of my team follows me through the choke? Well, it depends on who follows you through the choke. 2 or 3 through left the Anubis, Arches, or Hollywood Gate. Never to sport working sideways, back and forth until my shield dropped to 400. The other 2-3 people are still at the choke and look like they want to advance straight towards the objective. They aren't far enough ahead that they've lost sight of me, and that's the first push. They might realize what I've done if I had more time, but something needs to be done quickly to try and salvage the situation. What is a better idea in general? Hustle up to the side with who I have to go in and try to take the enemy team's attention off the unshielded people, or split the fight into 2v3, 3v3s. Wait for the barrier to regenerate and try to grab the trailers until they either follow or prove that they don't care. Wait for the barrier to regenerate and to redirect everyone to follow the stubborn people up the middle. It'll be an ugly fight, but at least it'll hopefully be a 6v6. So, assume no mics, or likely if all mics are ignored. So, it depends. I've been in that situation a lot as a Reinhardt player. It kind of depends on who doesn't want to follow you. Because if the people that didn't follow you are kind of long-range people anyway, it's not the end of the world if they're still over at the choke point. Because when you come up behind the, when you go up the direction that you've decided to go, the enemy team are going to turn their attention over to you. So if it's long-range people, like Soldier, Ash, somebody who's been left behind, Hanzo, then it doesn't really matter, because once the fight starts, them being unshielded will likely not be that much of an issue, because they'll be more concerned with dealing with you. If the people who have been left behind is like... We'll assume it's like one of the worst possible configurations of people to get left behind, right? We've left behind Zarya, Ana... No, we've left behind Zarya, Zenyatta, Reaper, right? They're the ones who didn't want to follow us. So, at that point, it's really hard to advance in without those people at all. And if they're just going to ignore you, then you basically just have to go with them instead, because you can't realistically just march straight up to the point with, like, one DPS and a healer with you, right? Like, you kind of need the Zarya and the Reaper to be with you, because they're kind of make up most of your front line. So if they want to go straight towards the objective when you want to go off to the side, I mean, you can still make it work with the 3v3 thing, but, like... It's going to be a lot harder, because you're trying to walk up with a very suboptimal team comp. At that point, it usually becomes better to stick with the stubborn people and try and move in with them, because, yeah, it's not the way you want to go, but it is at least a 6v6, right? And this is just a general thing where it's better that everybody is all in on the same plan, even if it's a bad plan, than for everybody to have a different idea of what the plan is. Because, you know, if you're all working as a team, even if the plan is bad, it can still work. You can still just execute well. The enemy team can execute badly. They could respond badly. You could just get lucky. There's things that can still work out even with a bad plan. However, if all 6 people have a different idea of what the plan is, that is much less likely to work. Because then you've just got 6 people off doing their own dumbass thing, right? Or 3 people off doing their own dumbass thing in this situation, right? So, it's one of those things where, like, if your team is standing up in stupid places, you have to go and stand with them, really. Because even if you're in the correct place, it doesn't matter. Because if 5 people are standing up there, and they all die, it doesn't matter if you're in the correct position. You're standing in the correct position alone, so they're just going to kill you now. And the people who are doing the dumb shit, they're doing the dumb shit at the numbers disadvantage, so they're even less likely to succeed, right? It's like that kind of thing, basically. So, depending on who follows you, you can make it work out, but if it's people that you kind of need to go in with you, like the other tank, then you gotta just do what the stubborn people are gonna do, unfortunately. Even if the plan is a bad plan, at least you're all in it together. It's one of those things where, like, there's no good answer. You basically, in the moment, you're gonna have to pick what you think is the lesser of the 2 evils, basically. As will, you know, be the case fairly frequently in Overwatch, frankly. When is it better to use Widow over Hanzo and vice versa? It basically depends on how good you are at Widowmaker. I play Widow and Hanzo very similarly as snipers. Hanzo's more mid-range, like more of a soldier range hero than a sniper range, really, but, you know, whatever. There's not that much difference between soldier range and sniper range, to be fair. They're one bracket away from each other. Is it map-based? If we have a Zarya, do I always go Hanzo over Widow? So we have a Draft Dragon. If they have a Pharah, do I go Widow over Hanzo? Hanzo is also fine at killing Pharah, honestly, to be honest with you. I'm also having the same problem with McCree and Soldier, as I tend to get a lot of value flanking with both, even though Soldier isn't really a flanker. Yeah, don't do that. Like, you know, you acknowledge it, but like, don't do that. Of which one is better than the other. So, even if you have the Zarya, if you're a fantastic Widow player, you will probably get more value out of Widow over the whole course of the game. Because, yeah, you know, Graviton, Dragon Strike is really strong, but like, you know, if they have a Zenyatta, it's not even any guarantee it kills people. Sometimes your teammates don't want to combo with you, blah blah blah. It's like, in that one moment you can win the team fight, right? But if you're good at Widowmaker, you can win a lot more than the one team fight, because you can just consistently get picks the entire game. Widow's better at doing that than Hanzo is, if you're good at Widowmaker. Like, so, you know, you can do the Graviton Dragon Strike, and that's basically, like, very easy to execute, right? Like, very little is required in the way of teamwork to make that one happen. So, if you got the Zarya and you don't see a Zenyatta on their team, you know, it can be better to go with the Hanzo just for the consistency. But if you're really confident in your Widow play, then just playing Widow is going to be better over the entire course of the game, just because Widow, as a hero, is better at killing people than Hanzo is, because Widow is literally, click the head, he died. Right? So he died because I clicked on his head. Hanzo, being a projectile hero, is just less good at picking people off. But Hanzo has more utility than Widowmaker does, right? Because Hanzo has Sonic Arrow, which is easier access than Widowmaker's ultimate is, even if Infrasight does last for an entire Ice Age. Storm Arrow is good consistency. Hanzo can break barriers, Widowmaker can't. Dragon Strike is a good damaging ultimate. It can also be used basically to like split a team fight in half, all kinds of stuff. Combos with more than Graviton as well, to be fair. So, you know, Hanzo has more utility, but if we're talking just raw killing power, Widowmaker's better. So, if you're confident in Widow, Widow will be better. But if you're not as confident in Widow, or it's just, like, not working out for you in that game, right? Like, you could just be having a really bad game as Widowmaker, then just changing to Hanzo is more consistent than Widowmaker is, right? So, there's that. You know, it can be map-based as well. Widow typically likes long sight lines, and a lot of high ground to abuse. Hanzo also likes those things, but he can make do without them better than Widowmaker can. If the map is also relatively confined, then you might get more value out of Hanzo, because you're more likely to make Dragon Strike work independent of other factors, because if the enemy team's just grouped up in a hallway, right, like, I don't know the name of the map, the battleship on Busan, right? If you can just ult into, like, the hallway that the enemy team is coming up when they're regrouping and kill a couple people, right? Because the map makes it hard for them to dodge it unless they react appropriately, which people have issues doing in Overwatch. I don't know if you've noticed. So, it can be map-based, but it's really a matter of, like, can you dunk on people as Widow? If yes, Widow's better. If not, Hanzo's better, because he's more consistent. Just because, like, utility, and, like, you can always just spam into an area, and, like, sooner or later, law of large numbers, one of these tree trunks is gonna kill somebody. Why does the game has so little of the match results in match video? Comparing it to Dota 2, there are really useful information though, such as details. Purchase what items at what minute, who killed who in what order, and a very good match video available for download and a review. So, like, the replay system is never coming. They're busy making skins, okay? That's what I suspect the answer is. They're busy making skins. So, what else we got? Where was I? I was there. How do you 1v1 deal with one-shot heroes as Tracer? So we kind of already had this question, didn't we? On tips on how to deal with heroes such as Hanzo, Ashe, or even Mei, where I can get one shot by a basic attack. I'm pretty good at dueling almost every other hero in the game, but I have zero clue how I'm supposed to deal with characters in the game that can ruin my day from across the map when I'm doing anything. I mean, you avoid the person as much as possible until you can get to them, and ideally you get to them without them knowing that you're coming, because, like you said, they can kill you in one shot, so if any advanced notice they have that you're coming is going to give them more of an advantage, because it gives them more time to react to you and get that one shot in, you know, more chances to shoot at you. So, you know, it's like how Pharah deals with hit-scan heroes. You try and sneak up on the hit-scan hero, because if you engage the hit-scan hero in open space, or try to just advance on the hit-scan hero, then they'll probably kill you. Especially if they're like Widowmaker, or McCree, you know, or Hanzo, even, you know, Ashe, they can kill you really easily. So you gotta sneak up on those people, because then if you get the first shot in and they didn't know you were coming, it's really easy to land the second shot that will kill them. It's the same basic idea. The more advanced notice they have you're coming, the harder it's going to be for you to do it, because you're giving them more notice and more chances to hit you. So you try and sneak up on them. A message from your friendly Reinhardt. I love playing the big game, I truly do. However, I cannot do anything about lightning cannon monkeys. He identifies as a scientist, thank you. If the leaping baboon comes flying in here with his wonder waffle and attempts to tickle me to death, I'm going to retaliate. I'm going to put my hammer, sometimes axe, to good use. The almighty shield does nothing against the Winston. Please do not yell at me if I decide to waste my time trying to block him and swing at him instead. So, swinging can still be the wrong decision, though, just so you know. Because, just because you're not blocking Winston doesn't mean you're not blocking the other members of his team. Because there are still 5 other people on the enemy team. So, swinging into Winston can still be the wrong decision, just so you know. Because it depends on what the other people on his team are up to. If you take the shield down versus the Ashe Widowmaker to swing at the Winston, and 3 of your teammates die behind you because you did that, then you fucked up, and you should have kept blocking, even though you weren't blocking Winston. McCree tips and tricks. Some tips and tricks to playing a bit recently. I tend to stay around the low ground more than the high ground and play with my team more than I would with Soldier because of his low mobility and sustain. Yeah, that's fair enough. McCree's also meant to be like bodyguarding people, but the general public might not know about. So he's really good at breaking barriers right now because they buffed the damage on Fan the Hammer, so you can fan roll Fan and break a lot of shit. Oh god, no, don't do that. Get me away from new Reddit, Jesus Christ. Basically, like, bodyguard your team. Most McCree players are off doing their own thing, and, like, you're really good at protecting people from flankers and divers because you have hard crowd control, and now that Fan the Hammer's stronger, you flashbang them, Fan the Hammer, and that fucker's dead. That fucker dead, right? So, those are, like, the biggest things. Deadeye reloads your gun, so you can empty your gun, use Deadeye, and it's instantly reloaded afterwards. Yeah, don't be afraid to use Deadeye to, like, pick off one person if, like, that's gonna pick off a dude because he's, like, running across the street in full view of everybody, right? If you kill that dude, it was a good use of the ult, honestly, because Deadeye is mostly really good at picking off 1 or 2 people really quickly, so don't be afraid to do that. People always fixate on getting the sick 6-man ultimate, but, like, just picking off 1 or 2 people is pretty good. That's all I got off the top of my head. Shot calling help. Melee solo queuing and play support, and mostly I noticed that most people don't communicate at all or just talk shit to each other. Oh yes, oh weird, people do that in Overwatch? Never. From what I've gathered, my assumption is that most of the shot calling should be coming from a Zen. The supports are the best people to have shot calling, usually, yes. I'm calling pretty much everything that I see. Mercy low. But I rarely get feedback. Most people don't say anything and/or toxic. What are must calls? What might be some calls that aren't that helpful? How can you tell if you are improving or if your team is giving you feedback? So yeah, you want short, effective communication. So, I mean, first off, you want to actually say things confidently. Like, this is a fairly baseline thing, right? You want to sound confident when you shot call. Because if you're really quiet, Mercy low, Diva flanking point, then people are less likely to listen to you. But if you fucking yell it at them, if you project your voice at them, right, then they're more likely to listen to what you're saying, right? So, you know, just baseline, try to sound confident and, like, project when you're talking, because people are more likely to listen to you. Speak from the diaphragm and not the throat, as they always say, even though I don't honestly know what that means, to be perfectly honest with you. But, you know, it's what people say to do. So do that. So, the thing is with saying someone's low is that there's no guarantee they do anything. So, like, if you see someone is low, you should also try and throw in, like, focus X they're low, right? That's still short, it's still to the point, it's longer than necessarily it has to be, right? Like, ideally, you should be able to say X is low and people will focus X, but there's no guarantee they will. So you want to throw in, focus Mercy, she's low, right? And then they're more likely to listen to you. If, like, somebody's being flanked, somebody's being dove, and somebody needs help, right? Like, you see Diva is flanking and trying to kill someone, then throw in, help X, Y is killing them, right? And yeah, that's longer than it needs to be still, right? But especially in the lower SRs, you need to actually kind of make people do something, right? You need to actually throw in some words that are more likely to prompt people to act, because then it's more direct. It's kind of like, there's this advice that you get given where if you're in, like, an emergency situation where, like, you're giving somebody CPR, don't go, somebody call an ambulance. Point at somebody and go, call an ambulance. Because otherwise the bystander effect kicks in, and if you go, somebody call an ambulance, everybody goes, somebody'll do it, right? If you point at someone, though, they're more likely to actually do it. It's the same kind of thing, right? So, don't just say something vague and expect that they'll do it, right? Expect that they'll do what you want them to do. Especially if you're in the lower SR, because just because it's intuitive to you what they should do from what you said, doesn't mean it's intuitive to them. So you need to throw in a couple extra words to try and, like, prompt action. Yeah, that's basically what I got, all I got to say about that one. Must calls basically is like if you see somebody getting in position to use their ultimate. Because, like, if you see Soldier run off somewhere, like, a really weird way, then chances are he's gonna try and go and use Tac Visor, right? So, you want to call out that, like, Soldier's going around to use his ult, right? So, get ready, X is going to ult, that kind of thing, right, basically. That's, like, the only must-call thing I can really think of. But basically, like, project your voice and try to throw in a few extra words, especially in lower SR, so that you actually, like, get people to respond a little bit more. How does SR MMR work? So me and my friend did all our placements together. So what actually influences rank in Gammon? So SR, basically your MMR is probably a much longer number and it looks less good, basically, as far as the system's concerned. So SR is basically a truncated version of it. Your MMR is a more accurate representation of your skill, but the number is less meaningful to look at, necessarily, especially how it goes up and down. So SR is basically an easier to digest version, and it looks better. It feels better to see your SR go up by 25 than it is for you to see your MMR go up by, like, 12.38 or something, you know? So, if the game detects a discrepancy between your MMR and your SR, like your MMR is much higher or lower than your SR is, it will try to get you these two numbers back together as quickly as possible. So if your MMR is much higher than your SR is, you'll be gaining more SR per win. Like, if I'm, like, when I was getting to Masters and then decay down to fucking right at the edge of Diamond, right? It sees my MMR is unaffected by the decay. So my MMR is, like, still in the Masters range, but my SR is in the Diamond range. So it tries to squeeze these two numbers back together as quickly as possible. So suddenly I'm winning 50 SR, and I'm only losing 5 SR, because it's trying to get these two numbers back together. And, like, presumably it does a similar thing to your MMR, where if you keep losing, when there's a like your MMR is much higher than your SR, but you keep losing, presumably you're also losing MMR faster than you would be otherwise as well. But it tries to get the two numbers together as quickly as possible. What affects your MMR is, or like your SR gains as well, is it's like performance-based. So it looks at your SR, and it compares your in-game stats to the averages on that hero in that SR range, and depending if yours is dramatically higher or lower, then it will adjust your SR gain accordingly. I also don't know if this is true, but I've heard it enough times that, like, I feel like I should point this out. I've heard that the biggest indicator, or the biggest contributor to your SR gains is time spent on fire. And I don't know if that's true or not, because obviously I don't work at Blizzard, but I've heard enough people say that I'll throw that one in there as well. But that I'm not 100% certain on that one, but I've heard that's the biggest predicator of SR gains is time spent on fire. Yeah, there you go. So if you were playing like Mercy and your friend was playing like Soldier, then just the way the system is, it favors the DPS player over the Mercy, because they've got more stats they can do well in than the Mercy does, and as a result, it can adjust better, or adjust more rapidly for that person than it can for like a Mercy, basically. I went 9 on one of my placements on a triple Q. Anyone want to guess how much SR I gained? I only gained 280 SR. That's fucking incredible, honestly, to gain that much out of it. Because at the end of a season, the biggest difference I've ever gotten out of placements to going into a new season has been like 150, up or down. Like, they are just more weighted games than usual. Like, one placement game is kind of equivalent to playing like 3. Like, obviously, I don't know the exact number. It's like one placement game is equivalent to like 3 ranked games or something like that, right? So, like, you're not going to see a dramatic change one way or the other, regardless of how incredible or how trash your placement games are. Because it looks at the previous rank, and it goes, well, you know, they won a bunch, so they're a little bit better, but so we'll give them like 150. There you go. Good job, good job, good job. Blaming DPS isn't going to help you win any more games, guys. No, but it makes them feel better about losing, and that's all that matters to them. Lucio hitbox preventing headshot. I was playing main about to eliminate a Lucio with a headshot, but it registered as a body shot. Interesting. Frame before the shot was made. Yeah, wacky. Does look like it should be a headshot, but you know, this game's pretty fucked up. Who knows, maybe his dreadlocks are particularly thick in that region of his head, right? How long have we been going? I feel like we've been going a while. We've been going 50 minutes! God damn, we only did one page, but we've been here for 50 minutes. We're not going to do another one. We'll be here for like 3 fucking hours, apparently. So, thank you very much for watching if you did. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'm more than happy to answer. If you haven't already, you can join our Discord and ask questions more directly and have a conversation without them, or just shitpost with us. And I hope you found the video helpful.